We're looking at practice self-check 7.21, which is swap pairs, and we want to write a method named swap pairs, and it accepts an array of strings as parameters, and it's going to switch the order of the values in a pairwise function. So we're given like an example of how that happens here. So assume we have like 4, score, and 7 years in a go. 4 and score are going to be switched, so it's score and 4, and 7 are also going to be switched, and so are ago and years. So we're switching all of those. However, if we have like an odd number at the end, we won't be switching that last one. You can see that from this last example. So with that known, we can start this code. We know it's going to be just a simple public. We can call it static. These don't really matter. It is going to be of type void though, because we are just going to be manipulating these arrays, and then just it's gonna update those. It's called swap pairs. We take a string of arrays, so we'll do string and then strings. Inside of here, I want to actually look at the length of this, because remember, if it's one odd, we have to take the length and subtract 1 and just look at all of these, not this last one. And that's only if it's odd. So we'll do int length, and we'll just set it equal to strings dot length. So that's going to get the length of the array. Now remember, this is if it is odd. And if it is odd, we're going to check if it's odd. So if strings dot length, this is how we would check if it's odd, modulus 2, if the remainder is not 0, this means that, say you have like 9 modulus 2, you're going to have the remainder as 1, right? So we know that that's odd, and we can just set the length to be equal to strings dot length minus 1. Otherwise, we already have the set to the string length. So we have that set up. Now let's go through this array. We have a for loop. We're going to have int a is equal to 0, and then we're going to run this as long as a is less than the length that we specify up here, and we're just going to do a plus plus, and then we can end this. Now we are going to want to store these values so that we can swap them in a second. What we can do actually, since we can't really increment this without kind of messing up going through here, what we can do is make a temporary counter. We'll say int counter is equal to 0. We have this for loop. We're going to say string, and we'll take the first value, so we're storing this in here. It's going to be equal to strings, and then we are going to have our counter in here, so this is index 1. And this is important because we are actually going to need to update this so that we can get our second variable. So we can actually do plus plus, I believe, in here. That should increment it afterwards. We'll have string, and instead of first, we will now have second. So we'll have second, and that should be pretty good there. And counter plus plus afterwards, so that when we go through this next iteration of the for loop, we're going to look at the next variable. Now what we're going to want to do is store these new values back into this array. So we'll do strings, where you know we are at the a index, so a, and then it's equal to the second one. And then we are going to have to increment our a, right? I believe we can do that in here. And we can do strings, and we are also going to do a. This one, it's just a, because it's going to increment when we come back up here. And we can say that this is equal to first. And that should be good. We can end this and end this. We can press submit. And we've passed 5 out of 5 tests. So this is the code that I would use to solve this problem. If you have any issues, I also did, and you can test this inside of an IDE using like a debugger and stepping through every single time. That was very helpful for me. But that is how I went about solving this self-checked exercise.